DaVo here from the Axiom Body Piercing Studio in Des Moines, Iowa. And coming up next, aftercare instructions for eyebrow piercings. First off, I want to start off with a little bit of a disclaimer. If you're watching this, and let's say it's way in the future, piercing and aftercare instructions do evolve as more information, more research, and more time is spent in the industry. So if you've gotten conflicting ideas from someone else, and it's after the date that this was published, including myself, you should probably follow those. However, as of right now, August of 2018, or July of 2018, this is what I consider the most up-to-date aftercare instructions. I've been doing this for a long time, and this is the most consistent way to heal out a piercing, especially eyebrow piercings in this case. When I approach aftercare instructions, I kind of follow three main things, three main points. The first one being giving your body what it needs to do in the piercing area, what it needs to heal correctly and speed up that healing process as much as we can. The second part is limiting the amount of microorganisms in the area on a twice daily, because we feel chances are you're not used to having an open wound in your body for the healing period, so chances are you're going to make a mistake and contaminate the area. So just to be on the safe side, we clean it twice a day. The third thing is cross-contamination prevention. That involves basically limiting contact or exposure to any foreign pathogen that may cause an infection. Also in that is limiting the amount of abuse to the area to make sure that the piercing has that period of time to season and heal. So with eyebrow piercings, basic shopping list, and I always give out written instructions, and you should probably have left the piercing studio with them. Inside, I always include a shopping list. Some of the things you want to pick up with an eyebrow piercing: you need to have sea salt, which you can find in the baked goods aisle if any good grocery store. It's also really good on French fries, and it's supposed to be healthier for you. Distilled water, which you can find in the beverage aisle. If you can't find it there, check next to the infant care section. Sometimes they hide it over there. If you're in a large department store, they might have it next to the irons and the dehumidifiers. The other thing is a mild antibacterial, fragrance-free soap. You want something that doesn't contain a lot of additives, fragrances, moisturizers, etc. If it has a long description, such as Midsummer Night's Dream moisturizing or something to that degree, that is not what you want. Probably the most common or easy to find antibacterial liquid soap is probably Dial Gold. You can find it in pretty much anywhere. It'll be right next to all the other hand soaps. You do want a separate pump container to use specifically for cleaning your piercing and nothing else, and you do want liquid, not bar or foam. If you want to go with something completely natural, I would suggest grapefruit seed oil-based antibacterial liquid soap. You can find it in good health food stores, even larger department stores and grocery stores. They handle a lot of natural products and they have it. As always, your best option is to go to the pharmacy level and buy satin or Proven. However, they can be difficult to find, and when you do find them, they tend to be a little bit on the more expensive side. Additionally, it's a good idea to have plenty of clean paper towels on hand. If you're going to be doing soaks, I do suggest the disposable medicine cups, the plastic ones, not the paper ones. First off, the first thing you need to do is compresses or soaks. To do that, you take a cup of the distilled water. When I say cup, I mean a measured cup, 8 ounces. Put it in the microwave, heat it up about the same period of time you would if you were warming up your coffee or cocoa. You want it about the same temperature as a comfortable bath. Drop in 1/8 of a teaspoon to 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. Let it dissolve. Should taste about as salty as your own tears. If you're going to do compresses, take a clean paper towel, fold it up, soak up that substance laid against the piercing, constantly re-submerging as it cools. If you're going to be doing a soak, you want to figure out a way to kind of go down, press the rim of glass against the area, then rock backwards so you're creating a vacuum, or find a way to submerge your base for 10 minutes. If a soak is going to be too much of a hassle, at least do the compresses. You want to do it for roughly about 10 minutes, twice daily. You want to do it before you do the cleaning in the shower for a couple different reasons. One of them being that it's going to help break up some of the discharge and make it a lot easier to clean. The other reason is we want to rinse off the salt mixture. Some people have reactions to leaving the salt against the piercing, so always rinse after you're done. Regardless if you're going to clean in the shower immediately afterwards, just make sure you always rinse off that salt. What it helps to do is it draws waste and debris from the piercing, increases circulation, the flow of oxygen, which can help with healing. The salt actually contains some minerals and nutrients that are helpful in your body's production of skin cells, and it really helps to soothe it. It's one of those things that piercings tend to kind of go through these grumpy phases. That's just part of the healing process, and it's one of those things you can do to kind of make it feel better and get things back on track. The other part you do in the shower, first off, take care of all your normal bathing duties first. Then wash your hands, spray the water directly onto the piercing to remove any discharge that's deposited on the jewelry. Take the soap, squirt out a pearl drop in the palm of your hand, lather it up well so you're diluting it, gently apply it to the piercing area. Let it stay in contact for roughly about 30 seconds, which is equivalent to singing Happy Birthday or Mary Had a Little Lamb twice, or reciting the Pledge of Allegiance twice. Then rinse under running water. As soon as you get out of the shower, pat it dry with a clean paper towel. You may do both of those things, do the soaks or compresses and the cleaning in the shower twice daily for at least the next 8 weeks, or until the piercing stops producing the discharge that's already collecting on the jewelry and the piercing will get kind of an indented or ingrown look to it. If you look at a healed piercing, like let's say your lobe, you'll notice they're not flat like this, like the piercings are usually right after they're done. It's more tucked in. And generally what that means is that tissue has connected in the center and it's finished that initial stage of healing. You don't need to do it the day of the piercing. I usually suggest starting it the day after, first thing in the morning. Give your body a little bit of time to recoup. Next up on the agenda is cross-contamination prevention. Common sense things. Wash your hands before you handle it. Try to handle it by an area of the jewelry that does not enter the piercing. Either a bead, like with Cathy bead rings or beaded rings, you want to grab it by the ball. If it's a seamless ring, try to get to where that seam is. The only time you really need to have any contact with the piercing is when you're cleaning it. Rest of the time, leave it alone. Also keep everybody else's germy little fingers away from it. Understand that microorganisms like bacteria and other pathogens do move on the surface of your skin, so anytime you touch the area, it's a good idea to wash your hands before you do so. At some point in your life, you might have been told to spin or rotate jewelry during the healing process. There's absolutely no benefit to that. In fact, it's going to increase your likelihood of infection by overhandling the jewelry and possibly dragging contaminants into the piercing. The other issue is that it can break loose new skin growth. It'll move naturally just thanks to good old-fashioned gravity, but anything beyond that is completely unnecessary. Also, piercings will naturally go through tightening and loosening phases in some cases as that tissue forms around the jewelry. If it doesn't want to move freely, that's not a bad thing. Just leave it be, give it a couple days, it will loosen up again more than likely. In fact, it's kind of a good sign because it means it's growing that tissue the way we want it to. No oral contact or exchanging of bodily fluids on and around the piercing. That does include your own saliva. I've never understood why people think it's safe to lick their fingers and clean things, but don't do that. It's disgusting, and your saliva is full of bacteria. Keep your environment clean. Clothing, bedding, towels, anything that may come in contact with it. A way to get around constantly changing your pillowcase is to get an old, comfortable, soft t-shirt that's clean, put it over your pillow, sleep on one side, sleep on the other side, turn inside out, sleep on one side, sleep on the other side. That way you get about 4 days out of it. Also for that first week or so, where sometimes it'll bleed a little bit off and on, it cuts down the likelihood of staying in the pillow in the pillowcase. Keep pets away from it. Do not let them sleep in the bed with you. They will just take every contaminant in the house and drag it right into your clean bedding. Do not submerge the piercing in bodies of water you can't control the quality of, which is pretty much everything but your own clean bathtub. If you use anything that goes out of a spray can or a squirt bottle in your hair, shield it with a folded up paper towel. When you go see the beautician, it's always a good idea to make sure that they do the same thing. Waxing. This comes up from time to time. I've been asked in the past, and I do not advise waxing your eyebrows while healing a piercing. There's problems with the wax actually getting in the piercing. There's also problems with the wax getting on the jewelry. So no waxing until it heals. Also avoid sleeping directly on the piercing. Try to make sure that you're sleeping on your other side of your back, or you've figured out some way to elevate that piercing off the bed. When you go to sleep, it might feel perfectly fine to lay on it, but the reality is the movement that we cause throughout the night can cause damage and abuse to the piercing, which will prolong your healing period and lead to other problems that are often very difficult to get rid of. Jewelry. Leave that piece in until it heals. After it heals, you can replace it with another piece. However, you do want to leave something in it at all times for roughly the next 2 to 3 years, only taking out to replace. Understand, regardless of how long you've had that piercing, if you remove the jewelry and leave it out for an extended period of time, your body's always going to try to reconnect that tissue and close the piercing. So it's a good idea, if you like it, to leave something in it. Personally, and most professional piercers will not charge to change jewelry. I also don't charge to autoclave jewelry, regardless of where it's coming from. Types of jewelry. With eyebrow piercings, I usually suggest either rings or curved barbells. I do not advise putting a straight barbell in that piercing. Circular barbells are okay, but you want something with a curvature that works into the eyebrow, opposed to something that's going to cause pressure and outward momentum, because that can lead to migration. If you see something, not quite sure if it's going to work or not, don't hesitate to contact me or your piercer. I'm happy to give you any advice I can, regardless of where you're spending the money. Also, avoid things that have sharp edges, points, things dangling off of it, or seem extremely heavy. All those things are probably going to get caught on something, and they can be really uncomfortable, and they can lead to migration. When in doubt, regardless of where you're purchasing it from, contact your piercer and get their advice on what jewelry is going to work or not work. If you see something, you're like, wow, I really like that, but I don't know if it's going to work, get a hold of them. They're happy to share that knowledge with you. Also, if you're looking for something very specific, I usually list roughly 4 different places on my website that I suggest buying jewelry from. And the reason why I like them is they list the manufacturers of the jewelry, so you know where it came from, who made it, what the quality of the jewelry is, and what it's actually in fact made out of, opposed to going to the mall or department store where you have no idea where they're buying the stuff in bulk. Infections. Infections are very infrequent. If something does occur that doesn't seem normal, do get in contact with your piercer immediately or seek professional medical advice. 2 worst things you can do is always to put off getting it taken care of. It's only going to get worse. It's possibly going to turn systematic, and it's going to be much more difficult to correct the longer you put off getting it taken care of. The other thing is taking the jewelry out. A lot of people have this misconception that if they remove the jewelry, everything's going to magically go back to normal. The problem with that thinking is how your body heals infections and what happens when you remove the jewelry. Your body heals infections by pushing infected tissue and fluids out through the wounds while it replaces it with healthy tissue below. When you remove the jewelry, which is often the only thing keeping the holes open, they can close and possibly trap that infected tissue and fluids deep inside the piercing, leading to one of 2 things happening. Worst case scenario, it turns into an inward traveling infection or begins to actually spread into other tissue. If left untreated, can possibly turn septic or cause permanent tissue damage. More commonly, your body will try to isolate the infection, and then by developing a cyst or an abscess, and then slowly, very painfully pushing it to the surface. In both cases, you're definitely going to need medical treatment, and it's probably going to involve having it lanced and drained. If you leave the jewelry in, it allows a way for your body to expel the infection. It also usually makes it a little bit more treatable. Now, it's not going to be uncommon to see some signs of infection like discomfort, discolorization, heat, tenderness of touch, inflammation, swelling, off and on for that first couple weeks as your body accepts the piercing and gets over the trauma of it. It's also uncommon to see a tad bit of bleeding anywhere from 1 to 5 days. Usually this kind of collects around the piercing holes. Most people don't even notice it. Now, some other things you can do to help speed up your healing process include being healthy, reducing the amount of stress in your life, eating a well-balanced diet, and making sure that you're getting plenty of rest. All these things will help you heal faster. If you smoke, I'm guilty of that myself, stopping with the smoking can actually speed up your healing process. Other than that, I do have written instructions on my website at AxiomPiercing.com, including a way to download this if you want one. You can do that. Other than that, it pretty much takes care of it. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions or you're questioning something or unsure about something, feel free to leave a comment. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have on eyebrow piercings. Also, please subscribe so you get these on a regular basis, including our weekly updates and all that fun stuff and specials and things I got going on. Also, if you'd like to see more of this, more information on eyebrows, click on the playlist. If you want to see more of our videos, click on the latest one that we've uploaded. If you like to subscribe to my personal channel, which I haven't done much with lately, but there's a lot of things on there, go ahead and click on that smiling face of May. Other than that, have a good day and take care of those piercings.